You're selling a fair amount of coffee. You're facing logistics that you don't face in the orthodontic space, right? Because in ortho, you're selling a $5,000 item and you're delivering everything yourself. In coffee, and this is a very common challenge for people who have hobbies that turn into businesses, is we don't know how to scale when we're not the one doing it. But when I say, I want you to run the coffee business bigger, but I don't want you to be involved in it, that's where it becomes way more difficult, right?
Yeah, you're describing the E-Myth Revisited right now.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Orthopreneurs Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Darin Ward. Welcome, Darin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am thrilled to have you on board because today we're going to talk a lot about the differences, perhaps, between running a big practice and a smaller practice, some of the evolutions you've been through, aesthetics in orthodontics, beyond just creating a smile line. And we're even going to get into some fun stories about his new entrepreneurial venture, which involves coffee roasting, of all things. And maybe, just maybe, we'll even talk about wooden racing shells. So there's spoiler alerts there a little bit. But Darin, if you wouldn't mind starting by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of how you ended up being where you are today.
Sure. So I went to, grew up in LA area, went to San Diego State, go Aztecs.
Marshall Faulk, I think,
Marshall Faulk. I was there the same time. We would outsell the Chargers in the Murph at that time. And that was
by the way,
stadium. Yeah.
With all due respect, the Murph was like the most disgusting place. It was like, it was so old. I remember I saw a ball game at the Murph, and that was one old place, but good memories, I have no doubt. Sorry for interrupting you there.
Yeah, no worries. So I ended up at Baylor College of Dentistry, and my mom was from Texas, had passed away. Dad moved to Texas, so I wanted to be near family. And then I ended up in Eugene, Oregon, practiced general dentistry from 99 until 07.
Fair amount.
And I started doing some interceptive orthodontics. I was in this group that does Crozats called AAGO, and this ortho stuff's way too fun. I'm doing dentistry to support my orthodontic habits. So I sold my practice and went back to school and got in to the program in Colorado. And so I had 27 glorious months, telemark backcountry skiing, had 7 mountains worth of ski passes. It was awesome. And then got out and ended up, I was going to practice in Colorado Springs and showed up to work after negotiating, it was an associateship, and thought we had agreed on everything. It's good. I got there and the contract was paying me half of what we agreed. And the dude said, he was an older orthodontist, said, it is what it is. So I looked around. This was in 09, mind you. So the economy was pretty tough after the market crash and everything. And so I had done a bunch of continuing education with a group called OBI.
I know well.
The bioaesthetic people. So that was my occlusal lobotomy back in the day. And so I had a lot of friends in Calgary. So I got a license to practice in Canada and bought a downtown practice in Calgary, Alberta, and was there for about a year and a half or so, and then decided I really wanted to see kids and treat kids because I was treating, 2-op practice in Bankers Hall, a big building downtown. And so I started a practice out in a suburb called Okotoks, about 20 miles away, and it was awesome. And so I built that practice up to, we went from 0 production and 1 employee to about a little under 2.5 million and 16 employees in about 3 years. And at that time, my wife from Texas had decided, I said, give me 10 years, we're going to make this happen. And she said, okay, but she decided she had to move to Texas. So I sold my practice, and I sold it to an individual that then had sold his practices to a DSO or something like that. It was in Canada. And so I wasn't on the hook for any time. I said, I'll give you the time you need to transition it, and I'm out. And then found out I was getting divorced in the middle of it all. So I ended up moving.
Texas women come back to Texas, just so you know.
They do. So
Texas women always come back to Texas. Just be aware of that.
I moved to Texas to be a dad to my kids after finding out I was getting divorced in the middle of all that. And lived there for about 3 years. Then I met a girl from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And so, and that's how I ended up where I'm at, in Houghton, Michigan. And so we had
Houghton.
Yes, there's Houghton Lake, which is in the mid, and then there's Houghton, Michigan, which is arguably the birthplace of professional hockey, and that's what it's known for. Now, a Canadian came down and started it here, but it was done in Houghton, and so our town is the home of Michigan Tech, the Huskies, We're a 8,000 person college with Division I hockey, amazing hockey. And we had just decided after I just started a practice before COVID, my wife got diagnosed with her second cancer and her dad got diagnosed with dementia. And when COVID happened, we're like, we're out of here. And we did a little tour of the UP. And so I went from this larger practice setting to corporate, and then from corporate to doing my own thing. And I found a general dental office that she was trying to sell it during COVID and couldn't. So I bought all the leasehold improvements. So I'm in a 4-op general practice and kind of converted it to ortho.
Is each op private?
Each op is private, yes.
Yeah.
And that's
which
the
is
way
a
I prefer
very
it.
unusual.
As a GP, I love that. Like the big op thing, it's never my thing.
I know, it's really funny. You did a lot more GP work than most orthodontists, and of course, I did. If I could go back to private ops for ortho, I'd be all over it in a heartbeat. But it's kind of funny because most orthodontists really like the open concept. And so when I built my new office, I built pony walls about 4 feet high and glass to the ceiling, so the backs are open. But when a person's sitting in a chair, they can't see any other chairs. And I treat a lot of adults. I treat a fair number of kids too, but mostly adults. And it's just nice to have the privacy. So kudos to you for working out of a 4-closed op. Do you find it troublesome or problematic having to jump from room to room?
Not at all. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
The same.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, let's talk about a couple of things. You had that $2.5 million practice that you built in 3 years, which kudos to you, by the way. You don't know how many orthodontists reach out to me and say, Glenn, I'm stuck at $1.5 million. I can't seem to get over that hump. What can I do? If someone wrote to you and said, hey, I have $1 million practice, $1.5 million practice, I've been there for 7 years, 8 years, and I just can't seem to get over the hump. What do you think the advice is you'd give to them based upon your experience of growing a practice like that in a 3-year period?
I think that the dynamics of that situation and how that happened was because I moved somewhere outside of a large city that had a lot of orthodontists, but there was not one in that town. And I marketed the hell out of that practice. So I did a lot of production, but I did not take home a lot out of that practice those 3 years. I was looking at another 3 to 5 years, and all of a sudden it's paid off and I could scale down some of that marketing, and I was really going to start to harvest it. That was part of the killer of selling it. So I think really what helped me grow, and like they say gazelles, like a gazelle grows over 20% or 30% a year or something, was just marketing. So there were 3 roads that came through town, highways, and I had a 48-foot by 8-foot by 8-foot trailer with the name of the practice on there and all of those. And I did a ton of marketing in the community and all grassroots. And so I guess just marketing and promoting. I was spending approximately 10% on marketing. And I got a lot of that from the Scheduling Institute. I had gone to the Scheduling Institute about a year into practicing ortho. And I thought I need to learn how to run a business. And that was one of the things that they were big into, is just invest in your marketing. And I had a marketing director and was doing things I never dreamed that would be done in dentistry and orthodontics. So I think that, and then I was scaling up. Like I just had a target of, I want to get to this. And so by having that target and just every day and every week and every month doing meetings to line up the actions that are needed to get there. The hard part was, though, it was just, times were lean. I mean, I did not take a lot of money out of that practice. So if you want to grow it, it does cost time and it does cost money. I saved a lot of the time by hiring a marketing director, but you got to pay these people. And if they're good, you're going to pay them well. So,
yeah, in your life, there are times where you'll have lots of money and no time, and lots of time and no money.
Yeah. And
it's up to each person to decide what's right for them. But now you're in more of a lifestyle practice, much slower. You're not, we talked numbers beforehand, and I'm not going to get into those now, but you see about 25 patients a day, give or take.
On a busy day, 25, on a chill day, 15. So yeah. 3
total employees.
Yeah. I'd say 3, sometimes 3.5, depends. If we get busy with our aligners, we got a girl that can come in and do some at night, but yeah.
Do you aspire to grow that practice significantly, or do you like it where it is?
I wouldn't mind it growing to 40 patients a day and just keep the ops, a little bit busier. I would need to grow the team though. And right now, 40 patients a day would mean I'd be there way more than I want to. So, and then it comes down to, just where we live, the numbers of people. I mean, I have from the Copper Harbor up here, Ontonagon to Lawrence. There's this little triangle that's where I want to see patients. And
Nice.
I see patients that, they say, hey, you do this certain procedure that I want to come from wherever. I'm like, nope, find an orthodontist near you. I want to see people in my little area. And and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if not, I'm okay with it. We're profitable. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy who I'm doing it on. And it's fun. So.
With 40 patients a day, if you leverage technology properly, you could do it on 4 total employees.
Yeah.
Different discussion for a different time. But if you want to talk about that off air, I have some ideas about how you could get there if you want to get there, right? Yeah. But not everybody wants to, and that's okay. So you're running a practice, everything's going great, you love your life. Let's talk about coffee roasting, because that's the part that really got my attention when we posted in Entrepreneurs. And I just, everybody out there, I posted in Entrepreneurs about side hustles. One of my side hustles, and again, let's all agree that our day jobs are paying us pretty well, right? And it's going to be rare for any of us to find a side hustle that's going to pay us more than what we're going to get in ortho. So for most of us, our side hustle is a hobby. It's fun. We do it because we enjoy it. And for me, I've taken extensive courses and spent a lot of time with watches. I know how to buy watches less expensively than pretty much anybody listening right now. And, just the other day, I found a watch for an orthodontist who was looking for a specific watch, and I probably saved them about $1,000. So if anybody out there is looking for a watch, a high-end automatic, whether it's $3,000 or $300,000, I can help find it for you less expensively than you probably could find it anywhere else. But that's my side hustle, right? I have a company. It's actually called Smile Line Timepieces. I just thought it was, great name. I got the business card and the whole 9 yards. So I posted in Entrepreneurs and said, hey, my side hustle, or what I enjoy doing, is helping people and their loved ones get watches as gifts, what have you. And what is yours? And I could not believe some of the stuff I was reading. And I immediately reached out to a bunch of the people, you being one of them, Darin, and saying, coffee roasting, we got to learn more about this. And so please tell us a little bit of background information about, how you got started in this and where it's evolved to.
Yeah. So I started drinking coffee in high school and always loved it. And then all through college, and I was on the rowing team. So we were up super early. So, if you're in the launch with the coach, I always had my thermos. And after a while, you have all the different dose forms of coffee, and you do French press, and you do drip, and you do espresso. And so I thought, I'd like to roast my own beans. So this was back in 2003 or 4. I bought a little, it's like a 200-gram roaster, and it looked like a popcorn popper. And so I started roasting some beans, and it was kind of fun. And then I upped it when I moved to Canada in 2010. I bought a 1-pound roaster. That was, to me, that's pretty big. And so I used to have it in my practice down in Okotoks, and I had it in the little kitchen out the back door. I would put it there, and I would roast once, twice a week. And that would be, and I had a nice espresso machine with an E61 Gruppo. If you know about espresso machines, it's the classic.
I know. You're talking to somebody who's never had a cup of coffee in his whole life.
You're blowing my mind.
Sorry. My wife always tries to put it on me, and I'm like, it's too bitter. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And most would argue Glen on caffeine might not be a good thing.
Yeah, well,
it might not be good for everybody else around us. Yeah. But so when you talk about espresso or coffee, you should understand, I don't even understand the difference of what one roaster would be versus another roaster. So you may want to explain this stuff, because I doubt I'm the only one.
Okay. So the roaster I bought, it's a little drum, and the drum tumbles the beans kind of like a clothes dryer. It heats them. And then when they get to be a certain temperature, coffee beans, like popcorn, will have a crack. It's the first crack. And depending on the roaster and the bean, it'll be a different temperature. That first crack, the bean expands, you lose some of the water, some of the oils, and then it goes through a process where it's exothermic, and then the second crack occurs. So if you're thinking about like the color of a bean or the lightness of a light roast would be just into first crack. You need to have that first crack, or your coffee grinder won't be able to grind the bean. Then from first crack, so into first crack, but not quite to second crack, that would be kind of a medium roast bean. So the bean would be a little darker, still tan, but a little darker. None of the oils and stuff are coming out yet. And then if you go all the way into second crack, but not all the way through it, you'll have something in the middle. So like darker than medium, but lighter than dark would be like a city or full city roast. And so that's like, it's not medium, but you're having a little bit of the oils and the beans. Then if you keep going through and into the second crack, you have a dark roast, which now you have kind of oily, darker beans. And then like the Italian roast, or just espresso roast, if you will, that's when the beans are super dark and super oily. That's more like Starbucks. A lot of their beans are that way, although now they have different varieties and stuff. So I started roasting with the 1 pound roaster, had it from 2010 until I moved here, and oils come out of the beans, and the thing kept sticking, the little drum. And we had a couple fires in it because the oils would get hot and catch on fire. And finally it stopped working. So I told my wife, Trace, I want to get a little bigger roaster. So I ended up getting a 3.5 kilogram roaster. So it was a little bigger than a little bigger. And so I started roasting beans with that. And it was so much more fun to roast with that roaster because I not only could look at them, listen for the cracks and see how long you're roasting, but I started roasting with a computer. And roasting with a computer changes the game. It's kind of like if you're looking at occlusion, and if you ever use this thing called a T-scan and you start looking at bites and you go, I thought I was looking at bites, but now I'm seeing the movie of it. That's what a computer does to roast.
And can I ask you a couple of quick questions, just points of information? So first of all, and again, there are going to be people out there being like, Glenn is stupid. He's just an idiot. But if you don't drink coffee, could I take the same beans and roast them in your 1 pound and your 3.5 kilogram one and get the first crack and have them taste totally different?
Yeah, the dynamics of the heat and how it's applied, so how fast the heat is applied, that changes it. And so, and that's called, so the rate of how hot they get, so it's, heat over time, it's called the rate of rise. And that rate of rise, it's a differential equation. How fast is it going up? You want to have that peak and then go downward. This is all from a guy named Scott Rao, R-A-O. Not to be confused with Scott Baio, that's Chachi. And so
that's B-A-I-O.
Yeah. And so Scott Rao, he has these books on coffee. And so he does this computer, since the computer data logging has come out, he's figured out that if you have a decreasing rate of rise, you then cup those coffees and taste, and the taste is less bitter and you get more full-bodied flavor and that kind of stuff. So depending on what you're going for, how hot you roast, and how long the beans are in there. So you might get to a certain temperature really fast, and that would be a different, completely different roast with the same bean. And then people ask, do you have different beans for your espresso, for your whatever? I roast 1 bean a year, 1 bean a season to keep it consistent. I roast 2 batch sizes, a large and a small batch size. So that way it's consistent. And then that computer screen, I want to have my curves, my rate of rise curves be consistent. So if I have the same bean, the same batch size, and I have a consistent curve, my medium's a medium, my full city's a full city. You don't want to have variation. A lot of roasters, I don't know how they do it if they're not using a computer and or if they have like 8 different beans, because every bean has a different density, different water content, different shape, and that all changes how they roast. So
it's amazing. Again, not knowing anything about this, roasting beans at first sounded to me like it's a hobby, right? You have some beans, you just want to roast them yourself, the same way you pop your own popcorn, right? Just instead of going to the movie theater and getting a bucket of popcorn, you bring your own, just because it's fun to do, let's just say. But in this case, you really are manipulating the flavor of the coffee by simply roasting it at the rate of rise and everything else that goes along with it. And when you stop the roast, you can truly get the ideal flavor that you really want by doing this. And so I interrupted you when you said you had your 3.5 kilogram that you ended up getting, and you started roasting from there.
Yep.
And now computers came in and changed everything.
Yep. And so I was using the computer, 3.5 kilogram roaster, brought bags to work, and I thought, I do the new patient process. We give a gift. So I give a water bottle. I give them fingernail clippers. Hey, don't bite your nails. Here's some clippers. It has a bottle opener for Dad's beer. And then we give them, after the exam and they're done, whether they start or not, we give them a pound of coffee, and they get to pick their roast, light, medium, full city, dark espresso. And so we would give it to them, and then people said, hey, can I buy some? And then at the CrossFit gym I go to, there were people I would bring coffee on Thursdays. We have these carafes, so I bring them on Thursdays as recovery day, and people wanted to buy it there. So I started selling it at the CrossFit gym, selling it out of the practice. Then I started selling it at a couple local stores, and then it got into a couple restaurants, and it's just kind of organically grown from there. And my wife, she's a 2-time cancer survivor. She's very much into health and wellness. So I cannot roast any other beans except organic. So I get 1 organic bean per year, and we just roast it. So that roaster was serving me well, except at some point I'm doing fundraisers where they want 400 pounds of beans. and you start doing the
Oh
math.
my God.
Yeah, so you go 400 pounds of beans divided by, you average, because you lose weight with the beans. So you can put in 7 pounds of beans, you only get out 5.5 or 6. So you start going, that's a lot of roasting. And so I sold that roaster and bought a 15 kilo roaster. So now my roaster's about 9 feet tall and weighs about 4,000 pounds. And
But for 15 kilos, you're talking 33 pounds.
33. Yeah. And I don't roast my max I put in there is about 28. You don't want to max the weight because then you don't have as much control of your heat. So I'm doing a
But
little
why,
under 30.
why a 4,000 pound roaster for 30 pounds of beans? There's something I'm missing here.
Well, because you have to have the weight of that drum. It's a cast iron drum. You have to have some inertia in the machine running it, or else it's going to wobble all over the place.
Got it. So it's not like my washing machine where I've got a 200-pound washing machine to wash 30 pounds of clothes.
No, not at all. Yeah. So
this, for those of you listening, the smile on his face right now is saying very simply, Glenn, you're an idiot, which is just fine with me. But that's truly amazing to me, is that you've got a 4,000 pound machine. Is this in your office?
It's so our home had a garage like below. It's a 2-story home, and the garage that used to be below, the people that lived in it before us made a gym out of it. So now it's part ping pong table, cold plunge, ozone sauna, and the other half of it is my roastery, where I have the roaster. I got a grinder. There's and you learn about once you start selling it, and then you get to do production. You got to have a whole process for bagging, and so.
Wow. So it's more than, by the way, I have to use this joke because I'm a dad and a trained dentist. So it's the law that both your beans and your company have been grown organically. I couldn't help myself. You said it's grown organically, and I couldn't help myself. I apologize to everybody out there. But how many pounds of coffee would you say you sell a year? Not give away, but just actually sell. Do you have a guess?
Well, probably. Well, total beans that I roasted last year was a little under 8,000 pounds. Wow. Of that I sold, I probably gave away probably a quarter of that. Maybe not that. Maybe a fifth of that. So.
But that still means you're selling, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of coffee.
We sell quite a bit, and my friends and family, I always give away. I say, all good drug dealers give away the first bag for free. So here you go.
Yeah, here you go. Is that what happens? I wouldn't know about drug dealers.
Yeah, no, that's what happens. No, I would.
I've never gotten a free bag of drugs. But my question for you is: have you ever had dreams of making this the main gig instead of the side gig? That, hey, people love my coffee. I've clearly, between the beans and the roasting and the attention you give to it and the way you care about it. And let's be honest, you're an orthodontist, which means your attention to detail is pretty solid. And you've run a pretty successful business in the past in orthodontics. Have you ever given thought to saying, hey, maybe this is something that can be stocked regionally in many more stores? And I know you're 100 miles from anywhere, right? You're kind of in the middle of Nowheresville. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a descriptor. Have you ever considered making this an internet purchase thing where people can buy it from you, or making this into a much, much bigger venture? Or do you just love the idea that it's small, you control everything, and it's just fun?
I mean, I love the idea that it's small and I can control everything, and that I can do it when I want to and how I want to.
Right.
I do have beans on sale at my website, upwardcoffee.net.
Upper Coffee.
Upward, like UP, like the Upper Peninsula.
Oh, I thought it was like upper, like it's an upper and you're in the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah,
sorry.
It is an upper too. Well, my wife wanted me to say, if you're going to give these beans out in your practice, she used to say, get wired at Upward Orthodontics. So.
Nice. So upwardcoffee.com?
.net.
.net.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so people can go right there, buy it from you if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So I assume there's multiple.
Well, it's a little bit tough because if someone buys it, I'm the one who gets the beans, bags it, and mails it. So what I could see doing scaling would be, like you were mentioning, if I had somebody regional that wanted to buy the beans and that I could ship them like in bulk, here's the beans, and they're bagged and drop shipped from somewhere, would be great. Or if I had there's a couple regional stores I've talked to. A lot of the bigger companies are coming in though, and with organic beans, they can undersell me by a huge margin just because they have huge amounts of beans that they're doing. But I've also thought it'd be neat if there's like anybody who is really into coffee that's a dentist or an orthodontist to white label it. Like, hey, get your bags and your label or whatever you wanted, and I could send a big box of beans, and then you could buy a sealer for $20 on eBay and seal your beans and give them away to patients, or I don't know, be kind of fun.
Great idea.
Yeah.
No, so upwardscoffee.net.
Upwardcoffee.net. Yes, sir.
Upward, not upwards.
Not upwards.
Upwardcoffee.net. That's a great idea. And again, we're going to have many more of these kinds of discussions with a lot more people who posted in that thread, because each and every one of your stories, I have no doubt that every person telling it is going to be smiling ear to ear when they talk about it, the same way you're talking about coffee, the same way I'm talking about watches, the same way someone's going to talk about commercial real estate or crumble cookies or escape rooms and all the things that were in that thread that are just amazing. So you're selling a fair amount of coffee. You're facing logistics that you don't face in the orthodontic space, right? Because in ortho, you're selling a $5,000 item and you're delivering everything yourself. In coffee, this is a very common challenge for people who have hobbies that turn into businesses, is we don't know how to scale when we're not the one doing it, right? Like it's very easy if I said, hey, I want you to go fish and hunt. I don't want you in the office anymore. You would know exactly how to scale your practice by bringing in an associate, right? But when I say, I want you to run the coffee business bigger, but I don't want you to be involved in it, that's where it becomes way more difficult, right?
Yeah, you're describing the E-Myth Revisited right now.
Michael Gerber.
That's it, right there. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Michael Gerber, consultant, business guy, wrote a really good book years ago called The E-Myth Revisited, in which he describes the story of a baker who's doing it for a hobby.
Mom's
and people
pies.
tell you should.
Yeah, mom's pies.
You can tell this. You tell the story. You can tell what E-Myth is about.
Well, mom was making pies, and everybody wanted mom's pies, and they love mom's pies. So mom made a bunch of pies, and then she says, "You know what? I'm working too hard. I don't like making pies." And so she went back to the drawing board and said, "What systems do we need to put in place so we can grow it organically, but keep quality, and then get it so that everything is reproducible, and then eventually have including the human capital, and then having her be reproducible, meaning she doesn't need to be there, and you own a job until you can get yourself out of it. Pretty much.
Exactly. You own a job.
You own a job. Yeah.
You own a job until, and the E-Myth, for those who are asking, it's an allegorical tale about a fictitious mom who's pies, but you meet her at the book when she's burned out. Yeah. She's done. And the story goes, the E-Myth, just so everybody understands it, because I think it's a really, really, really important piece for anybody, not just orthodontists, but for anybody who works for somebody else and has the idea of doing something for themselves. Hey, Darin is doing this coffee company. I'm the guy bagging all the coffee, but Darin's making all the money. I should create the coffee company. I should be bagging my own coffee, and then I'll make all the money. And that's what he refers to as the E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth.
Yeah.
Because when we think about it that way, we're only thinking about the entrepreneur side. We're not thinking about the manager, right? The person who's got to make sure that everything's running the way it is, and the marketer. Somebody needs to be out there growing this business. And those are the two legs that people tend to forget about, so that all of a sudden a guy who never ran a business before, which you have, Darin, says, I'm going to turn this coffee business into a huge business. And before you know it, invoices aren't being paid. They're not going out. Bags aren't leaving on time. They're not growing because nobody's marketing it. Why? Because his whole idea was just making coffee. And so for anybody out there who's got a side hustle that they want to turn into something bigger, read the E-Myth. And I'm telling you, understand that being the entrepreneur is what gets you excited, but you also have to be the manager, the marketer, the leadership, and the chief, bottle washer as well. Yeah. So
that's what my tag says at work. It says orthodontist and chief dishwasher, because from the email. Yeah. And then really it's taking that time to work on it, not while you're working in it, and do all of the non-sexy things like make the standard operating procedure for fill in the blank, whatever movement you're going to do. And it's a pain in the ass.
So now you just got to do that, Darin, because, I want Upward Coffee to be in every Whole Foods in the United States. And the grocery industry is a tough industry. I've had a lot of friends who've been in that industry, and it is a tough one. But before I let you go, I want to hit one more thing. You mentioned you glossed over the fact you were a rower in college, I assume.
Yeah.
But now you've got a little bit of a unique hobby. You want to talk about it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Another unique hobby.
Yeah.
Beyond coffee roasting.
Yeah. I rode in college, and then I rode for 1 year, stopped, thought I had to do other things, and then played rugby for my last year in college. And that's how I hurt my hip, had to get my hip replaced. Like, why didn't I stick with rowing? So I went back to rowing in 2004, so 16 years after college, and started rowing in Eugene, Oregon, the little rowing club. and I rowed a few different boats and started sculling. So sweep rowing is one oar where you twist your body. Sculling is two oars, so it's more symmetrical. You don't twist your spine. And I rowed in a wooden boat. And I thought, this is it. I love rowing in wooden boats. It just felt right. So I bought a beautiful wooden boat made in England by a guy named Carl Douglas, not to be confused with the dude who sings Kung Fu Fighting, different Carl Douglas. And that's useless information for you there. But I bought this beautiful.
We've got a Scott Baio.
Yeah, Scott
Baio, Kung Fu Fighting reference,
and Carl Douglas, same name but different vocation. So I bought this beautiful rosewood single, and then from there I had that boat, and then I met a guy named Daryl Strickler who owned a company called Rowable Classics, and so wooden boats were about 99% of all the boats that were rowed in the 60s up until about 71 or 2. And then you started seeing some not carbon fiber, but Kevlar. And then carbon fiber came a little bit later. Now it's kind of the opposite. It's about 99.99% of the boats rowed are made out of carbon fiber. I like to lovingly refer to it as Tupperware. Or they're made out of wood. And there's about 3 wood boat builders left in the world that do it at any kind of scale. And there's some independent folks that are doing it. And Carl's one of them. So I bought another wooden boat, a Hudson, off this guy, Daryl Strickler, and just to kind of started collecting wooden boats. So I have 6 of them right now, and they're in my garage. The house that we live in here in Houghton was owned by the person who started the Michigan Tech Rowing Club back in the 90s. And so she had passed away from melanoma. We didn't know it at the time, but I just looked at the pictures online and said, there's boat racks in a 40 by 40 foot garage. This is our home. I had to convince my wife it was our home, and it worked. So so I row out on the canal. My only complaints with Houghton are that the canal freezes in the winter, so I can't row year round, and that we only have about 900 vertical feet to ski instead of when I lived in Alberta and in British Columbia we had about 4,000 vertical feet. But other than that, it's heaven. And just rowing wooden boats is so fun. It's just, I don't know, it's an art form. It's like rowable furniture. And I want to start the Keweenaw Rowing Club and get rowing going up here besides the university. It's one of the prettiest places to row, and there's no club, there's nothing. So
it's amazing. Well, you're definitely a man of multiple mysteries. It's truly amazing. The stuff you do, it's great. By the way, I have to ask, how tall are you?
6'2.5".
I hate you guys. I hate you.
How tall are you?
Shorter fellow. I'm only about 5'9" on a good day.
Okay.
And I'm never going to be rowing. I don't have arms that match. I'm always jealous of the rowing guys. Is it like 6'2.5" is like short for a rower?
Oh, I was the little guy in my boat in college in the heavyweight. And really, rowing is 90+% legs, maybe 85%. And it's the back and arms is just the very end of the stroke. So your height, you'd be a great lightweight rower, man. You just got to get down to 155. So.
I'm a lightweight jiu-jitsu dude. That's where I'm stuck now.
Okay.
And it's just amazing. All the guys I knew who were rowers were 6'5", 6'6", 6'8".
Yeah.
I was like, man, these are big guys. But I want to say thank you, Darin, from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to do this. Honestly, I learned so much about coffee today that I had no idea about. And maybe, just maybe, somebody out there is going to start brewing, roasting their own. Maybe somebody's going to go out there and buy a 1-pound roaster and start roasting a little bit. And if you're going to do that, I strongly suggest you buy some of his coffee just so you can compare and see what you're going against. And the last question I'll ask you, Darin, of all the varieties that you sell at upwardcoffee.net, what is your favorite?
It depends what I'm drinking, but when I'm doing espresso, I like my dark or espresso roast. And if I'm doing pour over, or drip, or French press, I like Full City, which is not medium and it's not dark. It's kind of right down the middle.
Well, if I could name this podcast episode, it would be called Roast and Rose. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Rose and Rose. Thank you so much for being here, Darin, for putting up with me. And thank you for your contribution to online to everybody, and just wishing you the best in the future and hoping that one day I'm walking past, a Whole Foods in LA or Florida or somewhere, and there it is right there, Upward Coffee right in front of me.
The big kettlebell says Upward Coffee, love the grind. So
I love that, man. Have a wonderful day, okay, brother?
All right. Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.